Okay, so let's see it move by move now. So white plays d4, knight f6, knight f3, e6. This is what black plays when black aims to play the Queen's Indian setup. Like, for example, if white would play c4, which is kind of the mainstream move, so to say, and then black could play the Queen's Indian, or black would play the Bogo Indian with bishop b4 check. But that's not our topic in this video. We are playing the London system, avoiding those seas of theories that basically a lot of top players play, but not necessarily because they are better. It's just has so much theory and they're hoping to catch their opponent on long analysis and such. But what you can notice is that more and more players on top level, including Magnus Carlsen, including Gata Kamsky, and recently even Ray Robson, rather opt for the less analyzed openings like the London to have more original play at the board. So now black has a number of moves in this position. Black can play c5, d5, and b6 that we will look at. So let's start with c5 first. White now plays e3, and black now again has three moves that are regularly played. So let's go through them one by one. So let's start with queen b6, which is a typical move trying to take advantage of the only drawback of the bishop f4 early advance, which means it leaves the pawn on b2 somewhat vulnerable. The good news is that after this attack on the pawn, white actually can ignore it. White can proceed by developing the knight. Now, first of all, you always need to be aware when you sacrifice something, a pawn in this case, what happens if they accept the sacrifice actually. So, let's see what happens after queen b2. White plays knight b5, threatening to fork on c7. If black checks, white can successfully block the check, attack the queen at the same time, and then of course just fork and win the rook in the corner. So, after knight b5, black better off stops that threat with knight a6. And now, this is a very important idea to remember. White plays a3. It's important making sure the queen cannot easily retreat. And the whole idea is trying actually to trap black's queen. For example, if black would just resume development on the king side, white would play bishop c4, and then even if black plays d5, just trap the queen by rook a2. This is very important to understand. a3, very key move, stopping the black queen from retreating to b4. Okay, so after a3, black can try different moves. For example, knight e4, with the idea to play then knight to c3. White would continue with rook b1, queen a2, bishop d3, d5, queen c1, and then the idea is to just trap the queen with rook a1. Again, back after a3, black can try knight d5. Similar idea, but the response is also similar. Not bishop c4 because of the knight c3, but rook b1, queen a2, and now the correct move is bishop d6. It's a cute idea that now if black takes, then bishop c4. And if queen takes, knight takes, forks. So, what's the summary of all this? The summary of all this is that it's really, really dangerous for black to take that poisoned pawn on b2. So let's see some of the other options that black has in this position. One is to play a6 trying to prevent the white knight from coming to b5 and then trying to take on b2. Now again, remember this pattern. White could play a3. By the way, knight a4 is playable as well, but I think I prefer a3. And of course, the queen cannot take on b2 because the queen will be trapped immediately with knight a4. So, after a3, black can take, for example, on d4. Pawn takes, still the same. If queen takes b2, knight traps with knight a4. Came d5. White just continues developing. Now, of course, the famous trick that's known mostly from the French defense. This pawn is taboo, cannot be taken because of the discovery. Black plays bishop d7. And now white can play, for example, knight e2, regrouping the knight to the other side of the board and protecting the d4 pawn, of course. And now if black takes, then the white rook gets very active along the b file and getting to the 7th rank. And white has very good compensation for the pawn. Black has serious difficulty in castling. Okay, so now after going back to knight c3, let's look at what happens if black plays bishop e7. That's another move. Now white has several options, but my favorite one is to take on c5. Why now? Because the bishop already moved, so if the bishop would take back, it means the bishop would lose a tempo. If the queen takes, then white can again play knight b5, and after knight d5, I like queen d4, forcing pretty much the trade of queens. And then white actually has multiple threats. One of them is taking the knight on b8, bishop taking b8, and then the pawn on a7 could be hanging. Or also the knight could be chased away and then forking on c7. If black voluntarily takes the bishop, then white actually can try to take the rook and then rescue the knight from the corner. Black, of course, is trying to trap the knight with the bishop on b7. Now, if bishop b7, then just c4 using the pin. So after bishop a6, then white plays a4 with the idea to then follow up with a5, opening the file for the rook, which will in turn help rescuing the knight. Okay, and then if after bishop e7 and d takes c5, black takes back with the bishop, white can resume development, because again it's dangerous for black to take, and allow the knight b5, knight d5, rook b1, and the black queen is in danger, even though it escapes, but doesn't escape all the trouble, because white is playing c4 next and then trapping the rook. So all these are only sample variations, of course, but they well demonstrate all the ideas and all the dangers that black faces. So one more thing, let's go back at queen b6, knight c3. There is yet another option for black, in addition to taking on b2 or playing a6 or playing d5 or bishop e7. A last option we'll discuss is if black takes on d4. We do take back with the pawn. Again, taking on b2 wouldn't bring much good for black. The answer is the usual, knight b5. And if black now tries to use the only change in the position because of the exchange of the pawns, so the c and e pawn, now white can choose to block by the bishop or the knight. Either is playable, but I slightly prefer blocking with the bishop,